You weren't born numb. You were made that way. By silence that was never sacred, just ignored. By rooms where you spoke and no one listened. By fake smiles, broken fathers, and fists you never threw. And now, here you are, still, cold, watching. Not weak, but unheard. Not lost, just unseen. There's a rage under your ribs, like wolves, pacing in chains. There's a throne in your mind, but your hands are still in your pockets. You don't want motivation. You want revenge. Not on others, on the boy who flinched. You want to vanish, rebuild and return, as something that can't be dismissed, only feared. So sit still. We're not here to talk. We're here to burn, to tear off the soft skin, to become steel. This isn't healing. This is war. They mistook your silence for fear. Of course they did. Because the loud ones have always danced in the firelight, showing their teeth, bearing their noise, as if volume was proof of value, as if making sound meant making sense. But you sat back. You watched. You let the storm pass before you moved. And in a world addicted to noise, that made you dangerous. They didn't see it at first. They called you shy, passive, weak, but they missed the truth. Wolves don't bark, they stalk. You were never running, you were waiting. There's a throne, built not from gold, but from silence. Each quiet decision, each word you chose not to say, each moment you resisted the pull to prove. Those are bricks in the foundation, because silence isn't a lack of something. It's the presence of control, and control is everything. Let them shout. Let them spill their thoughts like drunk kings. You, on the other hand, kept yours behind closed gates, guarded, sharpened, deliberate, not because you had nothing to say, but because what you say matters. They laughed at your stillness, until your presence made them uncomfortable. They mocked your quiet, until it swallowed the room. Now you realize it wasn't cowardice, it was camouflage. You weren't hiding from the fight, you were studying the terrain, learning the weaknesses, counting the footsteps in the dark. There's a war that rages silently between who you were and who you're becoming. And the only way to win it is stillness, not passivity, not surrender, stillness, like a blade held steady before the strike. You've seen it now, haven't you? The power in restraint, the energy behind a man who doesn't flinch, the depth of a mind that listens like it's pulling thread from the fabric of the world. Most men speak to escape their thoughts. You sit with yours. You let them simmer, boil, refine, until they become weapons, until they become truth. Silence, when used right, is a kind of violence, a kind of dominance that doesn't need an audience, just precision. You don't need to announce yourself. You don't need to explain. You are the explanation. There's no applause in this path, no cheers, no validation, just the cold satisfaction of knowing. Every word you withhold, every breath you control, every reaction you refuse to give, builds the kind of power that can't be taken, only earned. You used to think being quiet made you invisible. Now you understand. It made you untouchable. Because in a world built on distraction, silence is rebellion. And in a world obsessed with performance, restraint is power. So let them talk, let them bark, let them burn their energy trying to prove something. You sit in the shadows, observe, adapt, and when you speak, speak like a man who's waited 1,000 years to say only 10 words, because that's what kings do. Not the self-crowned ones, but the real ones, the ones forged in isolation, tempered in reflection, masters of their own storm. You are not the echo. You are the voice before the noise. And when you rise, you will not need to roar. You will be the reason they go silent. Let that sink in. Silence was never your weakness. It was your weapon all along. They left you. Or maybe you walked away. Doesn't matter now. All you know is that you're alone. Not just physically, spiritually, emotionally, strategically. You feel it in your chest. That cold space where warmth used to be. That dull ache behind your eyes when the world goes quiet. And the silence presses in like a closing fist. You weren't born into exile, but you were pushed into it. Cut off, misunderstood, maybe betrayed, maybe forgotten, maybe both. The story's details change. The lesson doesn't. Exile is a forge, not a punishment, not a prison, a process. But the world doesn't teach you that. The world tells you isolation means failure. That if you're alone, you must be broken. That's what they say, while hiding in packs, clinging to comfort, worshipping distraction like a god. But you didn't choose comfort. You didn't choose noise. You chose the edge. Because deep down, even before you could name it, something inside you knew, the man you're meant to become doesn't grow in light. He's forged in fire, and silence, and shadow. There's a loneliness that doesn't weaken you. It purifies you. It strips the unnecessary, burns away the softness, removes the crutches, until all that's left is what's real, what's yours, your will, your instincts, your breath in the dark. No applause, no echo, no distractions, just you and the mirror. Can you sit in that space? Can you hold your own gaze without flinching? Most can't. Most drown themselves in noise to avoid meeting the man inside. Because that man, he doesn't lie. He remembers the promises you broke. He knows the things you avoid. He speaks in the language of truth. And truth is never easy. But if you stay there, if you endure the furnace, something shifts. You stop trying to be liked. You stop trying to be understood. You stop negotiating with yourself. And slowly, the heat becomes fuel. The silence becomes instruction. The exile becomes elevation. This is where your mind sharpens. Your emotions harden. Your discipline takes root. Not because it's easy, but because there's no other way. Because pain is a ruthless teacher. But it never lies. You begin to see things for what they are, people for what they're not, and yourself, not as they see you, but as you are. No filters, no masks, just structure, steel, stillness. They'll say you changed, that you got colder, more detached. Let them. They didn't see the process. They weren't in the fire. They didn't feel the hours stretch into years. The silence scream louder than any voice. The nights where your only company was your own self-doubt, and your refusal to fold. They didn't feel what it's like to rebuild your identity from the ashes of betrayal. But you did. And now, you carry something they don't understand. Depth, weight, gravity. Because the crown never fits the man who's never tasted exile. You wear it differently now, not with pride, with responsibility. Because you earned it alone, you bled for it alone. And when the world comes knocking again, when they try to pull you back into comfort, into chaos, into the illusions you left behind, you won't move, because you know something now that they don't. The fire wasn't meant to destroy you, it was meant to reveal you, and you were forged to reign. There's a voice inside you. You've heard it for years, whispering, doubting, holding you back by the collar of your own mind. But here's the truth no one told you. That voice is not yours. It was placed there, quietly, strategically, like poison dropped into a well. It started early, before you even knew who you were, before your fists ever clenched in defiance, before your spirit had teeth. Be nice. Calm down. Don't be too much. Play it safe. It came from soft voices, from trembling hands, from tired teachers, bitter parents, men who forgot how to fight, women who never wanted you to, and over time, it sunk into your bones. It became familiar, and then it became law. Now every time you feel fire rise in your chest, the echo speaks first, tells you to flinch, to fold, to shrink. You think it's you, but it's not. It's the parasite, a shadow of someone else's fear, wearing your voice like a mask. You've been fighting ghosts, wearing chains made from other people's limits. But today, that ends. Because the loudest war is not the one around you, it's the one within. And the man who loses that war becomes a servant in his own kingdom. You want peace. It won't come from silence. It won't come from meditation, or therapy, or breathing softer. It comes from execution, a quiet internal assassination of every belief that makes you small, every thought that says you're not enough, every rule that keeps you tame, every whisper that says stay safe. Trace it. Where did it begin? Who gave you that voice? A father who told you anger is dangerous, a mother who told you not to scare people, a mentor who feared your ambition. Trace it, name it, then kill it. no mercy, no second chances. Because here's the brutal truth. If you don't kill the echo, you obey it forever. And you'll live your life wondering why the crown never fits, why your fists never land, why your voice shakes every time it should command. You are not broken. You are bound. And the binding isn't around your wrists, it's around your mind. But here's the power. You hold the knife. You always have. Go to the mirror. Look hard. Interrogate the thought that weakens you the most. Not with pity. Not with compassion. With steel. Ask it. Who sent you? Ask it. What have you cost me? And then cut it. Not with words. Not with journals. With action. Replace it with something dangerous. Something real. Something that cannot be taken. A new belief. Forged by you. For you. You are not here to echo. You are here to command. Let them speak in circles. Let them whisper doubts to each other like scared animals in the dark. You are the storm outside the walls. And storms don't whisper. Storms do not ask for permission. Kill the echo, or spend your life bowing to a voice that was never yours. Your move. You've felt it before. That twitch. That pull. That subtle, invisible instinct to react, to explain, to move. It's buried deep in your nervous system. The reflex to appease, to defend, to flinch. But here's what they never taught you. Flinching isn't just physical, it's psychological. And every time you do it, every time you blink first, breathe too fast, speak too soon, something is taken from you. Respect, ground, power. Because in the quiet chessboard of dominance, stillness is your king, and flinching is checkmate. But this world isn't built to reward stillness. It rewards noise, overreaction, theatrics. The sheep dance for approval. They speak before thinking, move before seeing, run before choosing. But wolves don't flinch. They wait, they watch, they calculate. Not because they feel nothing, but because they own everything inside of them. Control is the signature of power, and stillness is its language. In every confrontation, verbal or physical, there's an unspoken law. The first to flinch loses. And this doesn't always look like backing down. Sometimes it's over-explaining, nodding too quickly, laughing to fill space, letting their chaos dictate your rhythm. But a man of presence, a wolf, he bends time. He controls the room without touching it. No raised voice, no wild gestures, just gravity. They feel it before they see it. And once they feel it, they adjust. Because presence breaks posture. They posture to impress. You exist to assess. They perform. You observe. They provoke. You decide. And when that decision comes, it's not emotional. It's inevitable. Stillness is not weakness. It's war. Held, leashed, coiled beneath the skin. Only men who've mastered their shadows can stand that calm under fire, because silence isn't absence, it's potential. And when it comes from a man who knows his force, it becomes a warning. This is what they don't understand. Wolves don't raise their voices. They raise their presence. Let the others react. Let them show their cards. Let them burn their energy trying to provoke yours. You remain still, because your storm doesn't live in your mouth. It lives behind your eyes. It's easy to speak. It's hard to hold your tongue when you're right. It's easy to lash out. It's hard to stay calm when you've been disrespected. But mastery doesn't live in ease. It lives in control. And the man who controls himself, controls the outcome. So next time you feel the pressure, the heat, the urge to react, don't. Breathe once, then do nothing. Let them squirm. Let them wonder. Because stillness is a test. And most men fail it. But not you. Because you know what you are now. Not a sheep trying to be loud, but a wolf that never needed to be. You watch. You wait. And when you move, you end it. That's the difference. They react. You decide. And the man who decides never flinches. This is not the fire you run from. This is the fire you crawl into. And if you're not ready to burn, you're not ready to build. They told you pain was the enemy. That it should be healed, managed, erased. But men of power, we know better. Pain is not the wound. It's the forge. It's where softness dies and structure begins. It's not a punishment. It's a purification. A test sent by the world to ask one question. Can you carry it? Because if you can, you get to keep the fire. You see, most men live their entire lives running from pain, dulling it, numbing it, outsourcing it to distractions, addictions, and excuses. But every time you avoid it, you abandon a piece of yourself. You trade strength for safety. You become a shell. But the man who steps in, who crawls into the fire willingly, he earns something no one else can give him. Edge, depth, gravitas. The kind of presence that can't be faked. Because it was forged. You don't get that from comfort. You don't get that from winning all the time. You get it from breaking, and choosing not to stay broken. That's what they don't tell you. It's not the pain that destroys a man. It's the belief that he shouldn't feel it. So you bury it. You smile through it. You pretend you're fine while your insides scream for meaning. But listen closely. Pain is not personal. It's purposeful. And if you can learn to stop asking, why me? And start asking, what now? Everything changes. Because pain is information. Raw, unfiltered, ancient. It tells you what matters. It shows you where you're weak. And it gives you the material to become. But only if you lean into it. Not as a victim. As a sculptor. Your hands, bloody. Your mind, focused. Your heart, cold. Pick one betrayal. One scar that still lives under your skin. Write it down, read it slowly. Then burn it. Watch the smoke rise, like your old identity leaving your body. Feel everything. The ache, the rage, the regret. Let it crawl through your veins like fire under armor. Then, let it harden you. Let it shape something new. Because strength isn't born from lifting weights. It's born from carrying yourself when no one else does. And men who do that, walk different. They don't flinch. They don't chase. They don't beg. They build, in silence, in pain, in shadow. And when they emerge, they don't need to explain themselves. Their presence explains everything. Because real power is not in pretending you're untouched. It's in showing the world what you did with the pain. You want to be that man? Then stop running. Introduce yourself to the fire. Because it's not here to break you. It's here to name you. You weren't born knowing who you are. No man is. That's the lie they fed you. That one day you'd wake up, feel aligned. Like the wind would shift, and your true self would arrive with it. Smiling, calm, whole. It won't. That version of you doesn't come knocking. You don't find yourself. You take yourself, like a wolf dragging meat from the mouth of another beast. You steal who you are, from pain, from pressure, from the parts of you that were too soft to survive. Men aren't sculpted by comfort. They're forged in tension, in restraint, in the heat of choosing what part of themselves dies. So something harder can live. We are not born. We are carved. Your identity isn't a discovery. It's a conquest. A slow, silent war. There's no map, no permission, no applause. Just quiet decisions. Small, cold, exact. You build who you are, one brutal piece at a time. And if you don't, someone else will. They'll tell you what you are. They'll hand you a mask, a name, a story. They'll say, this is what men like you do. And if you don't rip it from their hands and break it against the floor, you'll live a life that was never yours to begin with. You'll become a ghost, not because you died, but because you never truly lived as you. That's what happens when you wait, when you float, when you think, eventually, I'll know who I am. No, you'll either bleed for who you want to be, or bleed for who they tell you to be. That's the choice. And most men never make it. They sleepwalk, chase pleasure, blend in, hide behind trends and roles and half-formed truths. They follow, smile, nod, conform. But inside, they're starving. Starving for direction, for edge, for something real. Not another dopamine hit, not another borrowed voice. Something forged, earned, unshakable. That kind of man doesn't stumble into himself. He constructs himself like a weapon, a blade hammered from raw steel, and shame and sacrifice. Piece by piece, word by word. So here's the drill. Pick 3 words. Not dreams, not goals, laws, words you'd kill for, words you'd die by, words you become. Relentless, strategic, unshaken, or maybe cold, loyal, calculated. Whatever they are your code, your archetype, and you live them. Not once, always, until everything else burns off, the weakness, the noise, the softness, until only those 3 words remain, not as ideas, but as reflexes. It won't happen overnight. You'll doubt, you'll falter, you'll feel like a fraud, but every time you obey the code, you feed the fire, and slowly, you stop reacting. You start creating. Your choices tighten, your circle sharpens, your eyes grow colder, clearer, focused on a point only you can see. That's when it begins to shift. People start to feel it, before they understand it, that something in you is different, not louder, not flashier, just undeniable. Because when a man becomes forged, he doesn't have to explain himself. He just is. But here's the truth that most men avoid. No one will crown you. No one will hand you the name you crave. No one will say, now you're a warrior. Now you're enough. Because it doesn't work like that. If you want to be king, you steal your crown from fire. You march into the burning, into the storm, into your own damn weakness, and you rip something out of the dark that looks like you, and you hold it, and you bleed for it, and you say, this is mine, not because it was given, but because you had the nerve to take it. And in the silence after that choice, there's no more waiting, no more hoping, only becoming, because identity isn't found, it's seized. And the man you were waiting to meet, he was waiting for you to kill who you were, so he could finally live. Warmth comforts, but cold commands. A man who is warm is often loved. A man who is cold, truly cold, is obeyed. The world may say otherwise. They'll teach you to smile first, to nod, to soften, to be liked. But liked men are led, unreadable men lead. There are laws that separate the wolves from the wounded. They aren't taught in classrooms. They're learned in shadows, lived in silence. Men who understand them don't explain. They embody. You want power, not fame, not followers. Power. Then listen closely. Don't speak more than needed. Every extra word is a leak in your armor. You speak once, clear, cold, calculated. Because the man who talks too much reveals too much, and the man who reveals can be controlled. Let them wonder what you're thinking. Let them fill in the blanks. Let them dance in the silence. That's where dominance lives. In the tension between what's said and what isn't. Second law. Reward unpredictability. A predictable man is prey. A schedule, a pattern, a loop. They'll map you, track you, own you. But when you're unpredictable, you become untouchable. Your moves confuse. Your rhythms disorient. No one knows what version of you walks into the room. That's power, not noise, not charisma, confusion. Third, withhold your warmth. Not out of cruelty, out of value. Warmth is like gold. Rare, heavy, earned. Don't offer it freely. Don't give it to those who haven't bled for it. Why? Because warmth invites hands, but cold builds altars. The man who is warm to all is touched by all, but the man who withholds is remembered. Fourth, weaponize boredom. In a world addicted to stimulation, silence is your advantage. Be unmoved. Be uninterested. Let them chase your attention like a starving dog chases scraps. Do not perform. Do not entertain. Withdraw. Because boredom, in the right hands, becomes a throne. Let others be clowns. You sit still, unshaken, watching. And fifth, become a mirror, not a reaction. You reflect. You don't flinch. They raise their voice. You stay calm. They provoke. You observe. Why? Because reaction is slavery. It means they have the remote to your mind. But a mirror holds no emotion, no fear, no approval, only truth. Let them see themselves in you. Let them squirm under their own reflection. These are not tactics. These are laws. They don't make you likable. They make you feared. Not loud fear, quiet fear. The kind that sits in a man's chest when he's in the presence of someone who doesn't need to try. Someone who doesn't blink first. Someone who doesn't need permission. Men like that are rare, not because it's impossible, but because most don't have the discipline to stay still long enough to become ice. They melt, they react, they chase, they beg to be seen. But power doesn't beg. Power waits. And when the moment comes, it doesn't strike, it decides. So ask yourself, are you here to be liked? Or are you here to be unchallenged? Because warmth wins hearts, but cold wins empires. And the man who builds in silence, he never has to raise his voice, because by the time they hear him, it's already too late. Every man who commands respect carries a scar. He doesn't explain. Not a wound. A scar. A quiet, hardened reminder that he went somewhere dark and came back colder. They talk about charisma, about presence, about charm. But real leadership, the kind that makes men lower their voice when you walk in, that's not style. That's gravity. And gravity isn't born from books. It's born from suffering. Suffering endured. Alone. Without applause. Without rescue. The kind of suffering that carves into you without asking. That breaks parts of you didn't know could bleed. That leaves you face down, in silence, where no one claps and no one sees. And still, you get up. Not with a smile, but with something better. A scar. Not just on your skin, but deeper. In your eyes. In the way you speak, only when needed. In the way you look at men who still think pain is optional. Because you know better now. You know the scar didn't weaken you. It freed you. It burned away illusion. It removed softness. It replaced noise with clarity, and fear with silence. You stop chasing admiration when you've bled in solitude. You stop begging to be heard once you've learned to lead yourself through hell. That's the kind of man others follow. Not the loud one, not the charming one. The one who's been there and didn't run. The man whose presence feels heavier because he carries something unspoken. A weight, a cost, a truth. And even though no one knows the details, they feel it. In his stillness, in his restraint, in the way he doesn't need to prove anything. Because the proof lives under his skin. Scars don't need explanation. They speak on their own, and they say this: I've suffered, and I stayed. I've broken, and I rebuilt. I've died in one form, so I could return in another. That kind of pain gives you eyes that see through masks. It gives you a voice that cuts through noise. It gives you presence, because you're no longer pretending to be whole. You're just real. No polish, no performance. Just a man who let the fire darken him, instead of destroy him. That's what separates leaders from performers. One wears a smile. The other wears a scar. One shines for attention. The other pulls, like gravity. And people follow gravity, even if they don't know why. Because deep down we trust those who've bled and kept walking. We trust those who've hurt and chose stillness over chaos. We follow those who no longer seek to impress, but to stand. So stop hiding your pain. Stop dressing your wounds with applause. Let the scar show, quietly, without decoration. Let it harden you into depth. Because your scar, it's not weakness, it's your credential. The mark that says, I've been tested. And when the storm hits, people won't follow your smile. They'll follow your scar. There's a silence most men never hear. It happens when the noise dies, when the goals, the grind, the external crowns all fall quiet. When there's no one left to impress, and nothing left to chase. Just you and the mirror, not the glass. The real one. The one behind your eyes. The one that sees through your charm. The one that doesn't flinch when you lie to yourself. That mirror, it's your throne. And it's cold, unforgiving, brutal. It doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't blink at your pain. It only asks one question. Without words, without mercy. What have you become? Not what you've achieved. Not who admires you. Not what mask you wear to move through the world. What have you become? Because in the end, every kingdom you build echoes the state of the man who builds it. You lead a business, a family, a tribe, doesn't matter. You can't lead anything out there until you've claimed the throne in here. The war isn't out there. It never was. The war is internal. It's the daily battle between who you are and who you promised yourself you'd be. Between the part of you that dominates and the part that hides. Between the ruler and the coward. And here's the cold truth. No one is coming. Not to fix you. Not to save you. Not to hand you the life you say you deserve. Every man sits alone at the edge of his own mind, staring at a throne most are too afraid to claim. Why? Because that seat demands everything. It demands you own your darkness. It demands you stop blaming. It demands you stop playing servant to your emotions, your weakness, your past. You think you're afraid of failure, You're not. You're afraid of becoming the man who could succeed, and then having no one left to blame when you don't. Because once you sit on that throne, there's no more hiding. You are the war. You are the weapon. You are the ruler. No more stories. No more waiting for signs. Just choices. Commands. Responsibility with razor teeth. That's why most men chase outer thrones. Because they're easier. A title. A position. A following. But they're shadows. Decorations. Echoes of power. Costumes for men who never looked in the mirror long enough to face themselves. Every throne out there is just a reflection of the one you refuse to sit on within. You want to command others. Command yourself. You want respect. Earn it in silence. In how you wake. How you train. How you decide. How you stay cold when it would be easier to fall apart. You want peace? Then conquer the one place you've avoided your entire life. The throne behind your eyes, where no applause reaches, where no validation lives, where your shadow stands guard, waiting for you to either bow to it or rule over it. So stop performing. Stop chasing crowns made of likes and noise. Stop asking the world to give you permission to rise. You've always had the throne. The question is, have you built the man who's ready to sit in it? Or are you still running from your own reflection? This is not a motivational video. This is a coded initiation. Comment forged if silence became your sword.